Hello and welcome to the Freedom Through Safety course. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. You're here. This is going to be life-changing. It is powered by Warpgate, so it is super powerful. Get your unconscious mind to do energy work for you. That goes for like 4 to 12 hours. Imagine that. Not to mention your unconscious mind operates about 400,000 bits per second versus your conscious mind 7 to 9. So way more powerful. Not to mention, it could be running while you're going about your day. So let's talk a little bit about that with the Warpgate. Because the Warpgate can do so much energy work and so fast, we can direct it at very core level things, very important things. Because a lot of times, like say a safety program in your unconscious is going to be, it's based on your safety, and it comes from a very young age. Let me just break it down a little bit. So you come in, right? You're being a light, and you have 3 truths. You know, you're inherently worthy because God, source, universe put you here, right? You're inherently lovable because you come from God, come from love, right? And you inherently matter. I mean, God put you here for a reason. Now, your parents participated in building your vessel, right? They participated in building your vessel. They didn't really choose what the traits of that vessel would have, but they're not what put your soul into that vessel at that time. That was God. So you came here as a being of light by a higher power, and that's where all these inherent truths come from. You're inherently lovable because God said so. You're inherently matter because God said so, and you're inherently worthy because God said so. So you come in knowing this. You know, you come in there with this realization, but we come into this 3D world where it doesn't operate that way. You know, unless your parents had that, they'd have a really hard time instilling that in you. And most likely they didn't have it, or they had it in a reduced way, right? And in the very beginning, they're like, oh my God, it's so lovable. But then all of a sudden, you get whacked for doing something that used to be like so cute. Now it's like, not so cute, kind of pain in the butt, right? So we learn, like, we come in with these 3 things of these inherent truths, but we start learning that, wait a second, it's not quite that way here. And because we're beings of light, but then we're also mirrored to these like physical bodies, which are, you know, need all this taken care of. And when we're babies, we couldn't do any of it. Like, we're completely dependent on someone else to take care of all of our physical needs. So we got this being of light, infiniteness, and just like, wow, look at this. And this body that's saying, I can't even take care of this thing. It's got all these limitations. I can't take care of it. And I'm dependent on them, parents, to take care of me, or someone to be a caregiver. And we kind of start referencing of like, okay, well, let me kind of learn how we do this 3D thing. Well, those are 3D things, my parents, and well, I guess I'm completely dependent on them to take care of my needs. So obviously they must know how this all works, right? So you just start pulling it out of their heads of like, you know, because if they didn't feel worthy, well, hey, you're not supposed to do the worthy thing. It's like, I know I got this inherent truth, but my body says I don't want to die, so let me do it how they say to do it, you know. And the same, like, oh, well, they don't feel like they matter. Well, I must not feel like I matter. Oh, they don't feel lovable. Well, then okay, that's how we do it. So we kind of pick up all this stuff, you know, like how we're not inherently lovable, we don't inherently matter, and we're not inherently worthy. You know, I pick it up and kind of becomes Carter's core program, and you can't really change it with the like unconscious mind. It's big. It's like this big giant gorilla. Think like gorillas in the mist, big silverback gorilla. Multiply that like 10, and we come along and we're like, you know, affirmation, I'm worthy, right? And it's like saying I'm worthy to this big giant gorilla, and that's all fine. And the gorilla kind of be like, okay, whatever. And you kind of get stuck in this little box, right? Of like, you can like, I'm worthy. But you start getting to the edge of it, or you start poking that gorilla to where the gorilla doesn't want you to do that anymore. Then it's just like that big hand, boom, and all that progress you feel like you made kind of gets unwritten. And it's just because you've got an unconscious that's operating at 400,000 bits per second, and you're kind of going along in your conscious mind at 7 to 9 bits a second. So you're like making progress. Unconscious mind can be like, and we're going to get rid of all that progress. You're challenging my safety. I don't feel safe. Whoom, take it all away. And that's where you kind of get that experience of like, I'm making all this progress. I'm back to square zero. I'm making all this progress back, because that's unconscious. You're bumping up against the safety program, which is kind of like its core fundamental. Like, hey, if I'm not safe, it's not worth it. And it makes sense, because if I was saying, say you wanted abundance, wealth, and I was like, here, I'll give you $10 million. And then once I give it to you, you got to jump off a cliff. You'd be like, well, I don't want the 10 million. What's the point of getting the 10 million if I jump off the cliff? It's like, okay, let's do a relationship. Okay, you get the dream girl guy of your dreams. and then you got to jump off a cliff. And it's like, well, that's not worth it. You know, it's like, okay, you get the dream body that you want and then jump off a cliff. That's where the safety comes out. Like, if it's not safe, unconscious is kind of like, what's the point? No point going. I'm like, I'm not going for that goal and then jumping off the cliff. So that's kind of where that safety part, and it's like, it's just based on its wiring. And it's like, how do you confront that? You know, you make little chips, but then once, you know, the unconscious / the big gorilla gets upset, it just rewrites it all. Well, luckily, there's a tool, and it's called warp gates, that allows you to use your unconscious to start rewriting your unconscious. Now you got gorilla against a gorilla to start making those changes, those deep, deep, fundamental core changes, to where now your life takes on a whole new trajectory, to where you can change major, major things, really go after stuff, and like release that safety gate, you know, freedom through safety. And a little bit how that warp gate, if you don't know my story, came about is I had DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which is kind of like a whole bunch, like comes from PTSD, or it's like a PTSD response from a 0 to 5 trauma to where your brain's just forming. And it basically comes up with this way of like, I'll put all this stuff in little boxes. So all these bad experiences I put in a little box, I don't know what's coming next. And it's a way for the brain to survive, because it's just such an inversion to like that little being of light coming in and like, hey, this isn't right. And it's a way to say, and it doesn't look like it's ever gonna be right. It takes that, it's not gonna be right, puts it in a box, hides it, so you come back a blank slate again of like, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen. And it's like, oh, that wasn't good. Put that in a box. Oh, I wonder what's gonna happen again. Box. So it's a real pain in the butt to heal from. It protects you so you survive to get to the place to possibly heal. But then you have all these like fractionated boxes or personalities that you go through. And I had that situation where it's like, I want to heal, and I get a person, I heal it, right? But then they'd be fine, right? But then the next traumatized part will pop up. So the next day of the experience of like, wait, I thought I healed that. Now I'm back in the pooper. I'm like, ah, right? And then, you know, work on healing that one. And then boom, the next one pops up. Ah, I'm stuck again. And then I kind of start realizing, oh, this is what's happening with the different parts. And like, that was part of my healing journey, right? But then I was noticing that like you'd heal a part, but then imagine like 200 parts that aren't healed, or like say I like to do like a 200 kids on a school bus all wanting ice cream, and you give one kid ice cream, and you come back the next day and you give the same kid ice cream. You know that's not going to work good. Not to mention they're not going to wait for everybody to get one ice cream per day. It becomes this free for all. So I'll heal a part and then kind of get tossed back into all the other parts that didn't get healed, and then that part would get attacked and beat up on, because they're like, we don't want you free if we're not getting any attention or being free. So anyway, I basically was forced to develop some type of technology that, how do I massively heal all these parts at the same time, is what kind of came across of me merging energy work with also conditioning and training your unconscious to run programs. Because I needed some way to basically kind of heal everybody real quick, or at least fast, like really, really fast, so they wouldn't be ending up re-traumatizing, attacking each other, and kind of having this weird, just all destabilizing free-for-all. So anyway, that's how warp gates came along, to where I was able to massively make change like that. And I thought it was great for me. I mean, I got so much trauma, I had peace in my life. It's unbelievable. But then Source was like, hey, other people can use this. You know, they don't have to go through the whole process. I mean, it took years, many, many years, a lot of different energy works to put that all together to make these warp gates that I thought like only I could run. But Source was like, no, these are for everybody. So now you can take all that effort that I put in and be able to just run the warp gate, to where your unconscious mind connects to the warp gate. We give it a setup statement of like, this is what we want you to work on, and your unconscious mind takes that, goes to a warp gate, and kind of gets a program of like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and just runs to it, looping it on hyperspeed. So then we can direct it at core things like safety, right? And really unwind of like, you know, safe to be lovable, safe to be worthy, safe to matter. And these are like the big giant gorillas, but now we've got a big giant gorilla to do all that work. Well, you got to go around on your day without having to learn all that, without taking the time to learn all that, without having to know all the different clearings. You get the benefit. So that's kind of what we're doing. It's exciting. We're doing in the freedom through safety. So it's going to be awesome. And the reason it is safety is kind of like that, where you get that goal, and if you jump off a cliff, it wouldn't be worth it. But also, we kind of inherently had that, where it's like, okay, it's not really safe to be lovable, right? Because you get all these like conflicts of like, hey, I'm inherently lovable, but that's not matching up, right? And then the same with worthy, and the same with matter, right? It's safe to matter, So eventually, like, kind of like that whole wants to get summed up, and it gets summed up of just safe. It's just not safe to be safe, right? Just don't be safe. And as long as you're not feeling safe, you're probably not going to bump up onto these 3 core things, which really aren't safe. So then we're good. And you end up getting this program, even though it didn't come first, like that. If you're not safe to be safe, anything that will give you a greater level of safety of like having more connections, more healthy connections, probably make things more safe. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Getting more financial abundance, well, that probably increase your safety. Not going to do that. Oh, greater health, greater strength, greater flexibility in your body. Oh, that probably increases safety. Not going to do that. So you have this major program running against all the goals that you want, right? And that's before I even get into the inherently matter, inherently worthy, inherently lovable. So that's what this program is going to do. We're going to be directing it at safety. First one, safe to be safe, unwinding that. Here's the cool thing. It takes you maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes per day. That's it. And then it runs for the rest of the day. You get all those benefits. So this is like energy work on steroids. It is amazing. I'm so glad you're here. This is gonna be really awesome, really life-changing. So we're walking through this. So your next thing you're gonna do, I'm gonna have a video that just talks. You don't even have to do it. It'll talk about what the release warp gate is and what it all does. That one's optional. You don't have to know because it's all in your unconscious. Next one, you're gonna install the release warp gate. That's short, maybe 5 minutes, if that. And then you'll be able to jump in to the first clearing, which, like I said, takes 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes per day. And it's actually going to get faster. Day 14, we're going to put some warp gates because there's a little bit of prep we're going to do in our body, right? So you're going to come in, we're going to get ourselves set, get our body right, run the warp gates. We're going to run 4 per day, right? There's going to be a safety to mom, and then the not safe to mom, safe to dad, not safe to dad. And then we're going to do it with the grandparents because they all link genetically. And also if you had some non-biological parents, you know, some angels that came and took care of you, even if they weren't angels, we're going to clear those too. So that's going to be, you're going to have 4 clearings per day, or 4 clearings in that clearing segment. There is an accelerator program for those crazy out there where you might have a combo of those 4, but there'll just be 4. And I mean, it takes literally like 20 seconds for each one of those, but there'll be a little prep for the body, right? Then we'll go through those 4, then prep for the body to let all that stuff go, because we're going to be doing major energy work, and we want that just to go easily. And then that's just the wrap up, and that's all it is. And then those, probably the longest time is the prep for the body in the beginning and the prep for the body like afterwards. And those are going to get warp gated probably on day 14 to where they're going to be fast too. They're going to be like 20 seconds, 8-second rest, and then you're good to go. So it's going to be super fast, but yet you're going to be able to change core fundamental things inside of you and really start embracing that you're inherently lovable, you inherently matter, and you're inherently worthy. And your life, just even embracing that a little bit, because right now you got safety, and I ain't gonna let you even approach that. We'll get that cleared, and then we're gonna have that where it starts getting safe. Just having that a little bit will radically change your life, but we're gonna have that a lot and super radically change your life. So you're here, it's happening, this is fantastic. I'm just so excited. Freedom through safety, you're here, and until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.